Okay, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's really nice what you're doing, and I'm glad that you are doing this. It's really important.
Thank you so much for joining us today in the Humans of UMBC FG podcast. We're honored to have you here.
Thank you very much.
First, can you introduce yourself? Where do you work? Or just like any interesting facts about you?
Yeah, sure. My name is Elisabeth Arévalo-Guerrero. I am a faculty member in the Modern Language, Linguistics, and Intercultural Communication Department. It's abbreviated by MLLI, where we do languages, and we also do different also intercultural communication courses, and we also have a master's in intercultural communication. So most of the students come through us for languages, for the 201 language requirement. I teach Spanish, advanced Spanish. I teach literature and history of Spain, and then I also do intercultural communication, and I'm currently teaching in the education department and also doing some methodology for teaching foreign languages. Something interesting about me, well, maybe you can guess my accent. I'm not from here. I was not born in the US, like many Americans. I'm actually from Spain.
Spain.
Yeah, the South, Marbella, in Andalusia. And I came in 2001 as a full writer to do a master's in intercultural communication at UMBC, actually. And I ended up staying. Yeah. Wow. So I've been here for a while. I ended up staying for the PhD program, Language, Literacy, and Culture back in the time. And I went back to Spain for a few years, and I came back, and I'm very lucky that I got to be back to the same place where I left. So I'm very, very honored that I didn't have to go through a lot of challenges when we came back, because I came back as an international grad student, and then I came as an immigrant. So I married my husband. It's from the United States. And then we have a kid. So that was a different life.
So you said that you took a master in communications?
Intercultural communications. Yes, in the same department where I.
And you majored in communication in undergrad?
I did my undergrad in Spain, and that was in English and literature. English language and literature.
Okay.
Minor in Spanish, but I continue in the PhD in language, literacy, and culture. So it's very much related to languages, cultures, and developing intercultural communication and competence. So that's basically where I've been the last 30 years of my life, without not knowing that I was going to be like that, but I love it.
You said you came here in 2001. 2001. Wow.
Yeah, it was a very interesting
before
year.
I was born.
I was going to say, you were not probably born, but that was a very, very special year for the United States and the world, I would say. It was very challenging. You are not here, but my first class I was teaching at 9 a.m. is that when we have the actual terrible events of the Twin Towers, the attack, and then the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first day. So here at UMBC.
I'm like really sorry for that. Can I ask you a question? And that is, are you a first generation student? And if you aren't, what does it mean to you?
Yes, I am. And it really meant a lot in many different ways. My father couldn't continue to college. If he wished, actually he went. And my mother had very basic primary education. As I say, I'm from Spain. So they went through the dictatorship after the Civil War. My grandparents were very poor. They lost everything. And then during the transition from the dictatorship to democracy, it was very challenging for women to have either education or to get divorced. So it was very limited. But within that context, my father really wanted to be a teacher, but he immigrated to Morocco with his mother, my grandmother at the time. And he always wanted to go further. So I had the opportunity to go to college as the first one in my family. But I have a huge family. You have to consider that Spanish families are very big.
Yep.
So I have another cousin went first, and actually out of 27 cousins, we are only three who could make it to college. But I am the first one in my family.
Wow.
And actually the only one I would say in my immediate family who could make it that far. But they always encourage studying and reading and really critical thinking and going beyond just repeating words, but really questioning, because that was the transitional thinking from don't question the dictatorship to what do you think? You have freedom now. This is democracy.
Yep.
So it was very important that I went to college, really.
Wow, that is really incredible, because you said you were the first one that went to college
In my family, my immediate family,
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
and
is so inspiring.
it is. It was challenging too, because I couldn't have an immediate reference to really address what I have to face. But basically, I was on my own. At 17, I have to move from my home because we didn't have the university in where we lived. But in that time, you have to rent an apartment. So I rented with my immediate family. No, sorry, my immediate friends that I consider family anyway. And that's how we learn. We learn from cooking and cleaning and taking care of your own stuff and responsibilities while being the first one. In all of my generations, we were the first one going to college.
Wow.
For free, actually, for free.
So, what would you say what challenges would you say you face as a first gen?
Yeah, first of all, the lack of reference to really address what I was going through. They could not really fully understand that I have to manage time, that I have to prioritize my education over family responsibilities or celebrations, because we have so many celebrations in Spain. So I have to really prioritize. And sometimes that could be challenging for my family to not fully understand that I was not present for there. So the family pressure could be not on my dad, basically, but mostly on my extended family. I will miss a lot of celebrations because I have to study. And another challenge was definitely funding. Even though it was a free university and I got a very good scholarship, we only have to pay the fees. I have to pay for rent and for books and for food, transportation, everything on my own. So I could manage, but it could be limited because in my house, we didn't have extra money just to spend in the education. We were three siblings. And so I have to also work as a babysitter, also teaching, private lessons, summer and holidays. So that was a challenge, but at the same time, it was really good because I learned to manage time and my money really well.
How did you manage all that?
I guess because that was the way it was. All my friends have the same experience. They were first going to college. Most of my friends have the same. We were the eldest in the family. So we have siblings that were younger. So we were opening doors. So it was kind of creative because we didn't have any reference. So we just did what we thought it was the best. Yeah. And we had total support and freedom from our families because they say, okay, you're on your own, you're mature, you have an apartment, you're sharing. So they trust a lot. And at the same time, I was really, with not knowing at the time, I was really very fortunate that I could combine my theoretical learning with practical experience. So I was teaching because I wanted to become a teacher. So I was doing some teaching lessons and I was getting money. So it was great. So the challenge became also a possibility to have a better CV. I was babysitting, which was also a great experience. Most of them were American students at the time, kids also. So I could practice my English. So all that really combined very well. I think it was a very nice symbiosis of my whole life. And that came very nicely to my intercultural communication studies in the future because the challenge became an opportunity for me.
So I guess all these experiences you had just kind of lead you into this life you have now.
Really was. Not knowing at the time, I knew that I always wanted to be in a very intercultural environment, very diverse. I really love languages and cultures. And because I was exposed to that, I think living in the south of Spain, being very touristic, also gave me that opportunity. So I think it was meant to be. I didn't have the same life that my sister, for example. She didn't want to go to college, but she ended up working much earlier than me. So she was much more independent economically. I have to depend on my grants and my scholarship, but very different lives. Yeah. And the challenge was that at one point, everybody will be working, having a very good job, security, and then they will think about buying a car, an apartment. And I will be like, no, I still want to continue studying. So sometimes like, oh, you're going to be buried among books. I was like, why you say that? But for me, it was just the kind of the ladder, keep climbing until I found what I really wanted. And that was my Fulbright scholarship. That was
Wow.
coming to UMBC to do this intercultural communication masters. And like, I fell in love by just reading the description. Like, I want that. It was not easy, but I think hard work. And that was my training through being a first year generation. And the hard work, attitude you have to put to everything. Nothing comes for granted. Having to prove yourself most of the time to keep the fun. I guess we can all share that. And sometimes turning that into a very creative way to solve problems. Think out of the box. Prioritize your time and yourself sometimes over other responsibilities. Sacrificing sometimes, even though I don't like the word sacrificing, but I was, thinking what would be better at this point in this context.
Oh, definitely, because I feel like a lot of students have to sacrifice their time to spend with families and friends just so they could focus on their studies. And honestly, like a lot of majors, they require you to take lots of classes and spend lots of time on schoolwork. And so I think sacrifice is something that you have to do, but in the end, it's still all worth it, right?
Yeah, the family will be proud when you have your diploma at the end and they will support you. But I would say try to balance. It's very important also to be there, to be present, because time flies. At my time, I spent all this time, like in the US when I came as a grad student, and even as an undergrad, away from home. So it was good for me to grow up even faster and mature and face real life situations. But at the same time, I was not spending the time with my family, and my dad passed away very early. So sometimes I regret maybe not having prioritized that, but it's hard to know what's going to happen. And he always says, I want you to do it. Keep going. And when I came to the US, I remember he had surgery, heart surgery, the same summer I moved here. And my father said, I want you to go. Of course, he would not say don't go. That's why, that's what he always did. But in a way, I was pressured to do it, but heartbroken myself, had to, to give up, not being closer.
Yeah, I think you had to really focus on, your schoolwork, and so you couldn't really, spend that much time with your loved ones, especially your dad.
Yes,
but you made it to the end, and now you're, doing, working, having a full-time job, and doing all the things that you love, and I'm sure that your dad will be proud.
Yeah, and you give back. Always give back.
Always, yeah. And another question that I have for you is, when you look back on your undergraduate days, what do you think you would have done like differently?
Differently, not that much, I would say, because I have the opportunity to balance living with my friends. So I created family among my friends and extending my friendship a lot. I was very, very lucky to have a very good support system within my college, immediate and undergrad. So that was kind of the best part. And maybe I would have put more time into, because I combine a lot of things, not just studying, but also theater, exercising a little bit, not too much, and also having fun and doing as much as I could during the time, and then working, of course. Maybe I would have, as I said, maybe spend more time with the family. Maybe that would be the one, had I knew that it was going to be so short, especially for my father and later my brother also. But that's circumstances in life that we can control. Yeah, but not so much regret, but that would be the one I would have changed. Maybe spend more time with them.
Spend more time with your family?
Yes. Yeah, and finding the way so that they really understand what I was going through. Maybe share more of my challenges, because I kept it very private and I didn't want to worry them. Like, it was money, if it was, yes, I didn't believe that I could do it. That was another thing. Especially in the second year as as a sophomore, I almost gave up because I thought this is not what I want to do. I was very disappointed at the way Sunday teachers were teaching, and I remember my father said, "Well, I heard." Someone told me, I don't know, I heard that you are thinking about giving up. I'm like, I mean, it was just a thought, but he really worried about it. I was like, it's because it's not what I thought it was. And I thought maybe I made the wrong decision, because my dad always thought I was going to do economics, to do business track. And I always thought, no, I want to do humanities and I want to be in teaching, education, and languages. And I thought maybe I had the wrong choice. But then I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up. It was very tough. That was a very tough year for everybody in my generation. We were like 70 students in the same classroom. It was a big lecture hall for the Spanish system, not for the US. And I said, I'm going to continue. So only 5 of the 70 students really passed all subjects. Our education system was a year long. So we have to finish by May. And if you didn't, you have to go by September. You have to pass whatever was left. Like if you fail a class, you have like a catch up. So I could do it. My grades were not the highest because I was pushing for all of them. Had I known, maybe I would have pushed for 3 classes and then the other 2, later for September. But I couldn't sacrifice. I couldn't put in jeopardy my grant, my scholarship. So I had that other pressure, that money and keeping my good GPA. So that was the best and the worst situation. It came well. It pushed me hard. But I wish I would have communicated more with my family so they could have been more supported, and then have been more present also in my life as a undergrad student.
Oh, did you have any like mentors or like support from like the university specifically?
Ironically, no. And that's why it pushed me to become an advisor here in the United States. I had the opportunity to also be working in orientations, working in the pre-professional advising offices, which I love because I never had that figure. And I discovered that when I was here. And I was like, wow, that's so important. Actually, the last year when I graduated, it was the first time my university created a student office and they have advisors. And like, whoa, now that I finished. And that's where exactly I saw this scholarship to come to UMBC. It was the same place where I saw that, and I already graduated. As I went just because I have to go and pick up my diploma, and I stopped by and said, "What is this new office? Oh, this is the new student office, and look, we have so many opportunities for studying abroad. Like, whoa, could still apply." So yes, as a grad student, I could apply, and that was the first person that really pushed me to understand that it was okay to ask questions and it was okay to have help, because I didn't have that mentorship. Sometimes teachers will help you, not all of them. So my main inspiration would be my grandmother and my father, because they really understood the importance of education. They didn't have that same opportunity. So, but I didn't really push them to be advisors for me, because it will be another layer, another role. But it's so important to have a mentor, and I didn't really have it.
Oh wow. One question that I have is that I think it was, what advice do you have for all the first-gen students that are struggling right now and that wants to give up?
Yeah, I see that in my classes. I see that in my advisees, and I see that because I went through that. I also share with you that I wanted to give up just in the second year. I would say, first of all, believe in yourself. You are here because you're meant to, but don't force anything, and prioritize. If it is that you're overwhelmed with classes, rethink the amount of classes you're taking. Don't overload if that is causing you the stress. You want to enjoy this journey. It's not just passing a class to have a pass and have a diploma. These are very important years in your life. It's really going to determine a lot, not just professionally speaking, but also the way you become an adult, how you manage conflict situations, working in teams, working alone, struggling to prioritize your time, how you manage your life, and how you balance health, mental health, emotional health, physical health. So that's very important. So prioritize. If 6 classes are way too many, 5, 4, 1 semester, 2 semester, it's okay. If money is also an issue because you want to finish quick and dirty, as I say always, well, maybe an extra semester can help you balance the rest of the semester so that your GPA doesn't go down because you're pushing too hard. And it's very important, as I said, that your mental health is number one, healthy, and you want to enjoy. You want to have extra time to spend with not just family, but friends that you're going to make along college. They will become your best friends sometimes. They will go to your weddings. Remember, these are the time where you're really investing a lot. And also finding the balance between what you're studying with volunteer experience, internships, community service, even just talking about what you're learning. The discussion groups, for me, that's how I created my network. My own classmates became my best friends because we talk about it, and then you loved it, and you criticize, and then you come out with solutions, because criticizing and not putting yourself there and how to be better doesn't help.
Yeah.
So I would say it's important that you enjoy this process. It's not a punishment.
Enjoy the process.
Slow
down a little bit when things get tough, or when
Yes.
things are too much. And just, like you said, just enjoy the process. Don't force anything, right?
And if you think that you have to slow down, as you said, not giving up, that's not giving up. That is actually pushing yourself in the best way. Giving up will be that you do not put yourself first, and then everything is going to go down. It's going to escalate. This is a cascade. So you're the center. If you're not good, nothing around is going to be good. So you have to balance that, and money will come sooner or later. Time, it's also there, but health, it's now, especially after COVID, during COVID.
Yep.
And when we see that this is way too much, I want to give up, think about, you always wanted to do this, you're here because you wanted, or you were forced to. Maybe this is not what I expected yet. Make it the way you want it. You are here, you belong here, and you're also responsible for that.
Yes.
We are very, very open, very approachable at UMBC. So there's always a good dialogue. We're all in the same boat. It's not that teachers are against students and these are divided forces. No, we're here together. We need you, you need us. So we have to make that communication flow so that if there are some special modifications that have to be made, because we're all changing, teachers, professors, and faculty in different ranks, we're all here evolving as well. And with our research agenda, with our administrative agenda, with our teaching load, doesn't matter. We're all learning along the way.
Yes.
So create opportunity for relationships as well.
Okay. Great opportunity for relationships as well.
Don't stay isolated. If this is too much, talk to your friends, talk to your mentors, talk to your counselors, professors. You're not the only one. Believe me, you're not the only one.
Okay.
And by just talking about it, you feel better at the end. Maybe you even get energized and motivated, but give yourself time.
Yes. I know that a lot of, students are just kind of juggling everything with work and then their schools and all that. And I know that you talked about study abroad. And would you recommend study abroad?
Of course. Oh my goodness. Number one, we teach languages. It will be ideal that everybody has a chance to at least, study languages, but also travel. The good thing about the US is that it's so diverse that you can have people to really practice any language from anywhere in the world. But going there, smelling, you don't have that through internet.
True.
And touching, you can touch things that are from there that come here, but it's not the same. You have to breathe the air. And the experience could be whatever the experience is, it's your own experience. So it's a good way to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Even moving from one state to another one, that's still moving out.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, and it's big, or changing locations where you are, but going abroad, you're really questioning your own values sometimes. It's going to put you in perspective. It's more relative than what you thought. Your point of view is not going to be just this way, but it's okay. It could be many other ways, and maybe understand what the other ways are. You don't have to accept all, neither you have to change, but it's a good opportunity to see that the world is much bigger than what we think. And at the same time will become smaller, ironically. And that the beauty of differences is right there. Value that. It's not just one way.
What would you say to students that want to study abroad but are kind of like still hesitant about it?
Well, If you keep being hesitant, you will never do it.
Yeah.
So you go where you prove that it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get ready in the sense of, if it is to practice a language, definitely get some language background and some proficiency, and also get to learn as much as you can before about the language and the culture. But whatever you learn, you're going to be tested. It will change. So you want to bring all these do's and don'ts list. That's not going to work, but it might put you in a more comfortable and kind of ready. Okay, bring your luggage with you. Get some people that, as I said, mentorship is important. Before you go and when you're there and along the time, it could be a professor, it could be a friend, it could be someone who went through the experience. Share that. But again, the experience is going to be unique for you. I can tell you how it was for me and for 100,000 students, but for you, it's going to be you, because you are the only person that is you. Mm-hmm. But also funding. If you think money is going to be a challenge, there are resources to help. And I know that's number one concern. And number two is now the pandemic, of course, and also the stereotypes that we have a lot of prejudice against different countries, like, okay, mafia here or crime there. Yeah. Well, we don't have to go too far. We have the same in our own backyard. So if possible, if you can go with another group that is really preparing the students to go abroad, great. But if not, and you're on your own, that's okay. It's a learning process. So I always say, any challenge that comes in life, is through academics or study abroad or working with family, it's a learning opportunity. It's a way to face, and if you give up, you will never grow. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't mean that you cannot step up. That's different than giving up. Giving up will be like, that's it. I'm not going to do what I was supposed to do, but try, and the best way you do, whatever the result is. Mm-hmm. And then when you look back, put yourself in perspective. Where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? But also, if you go back 10 years later, what would you think that your life was? Okay, you gave up. This is how it may go. Next time you have a challenge, are you going to give up? So believe in yourself, keep pushing, and enjoy.
Okay. What would you say your experience was like, studying abroad too?
Wow, number one was in England. I was under Erasmus program from Spain. I was supposed to be there for 6 months because we have very limited grants, and again, the government gave us certain scholarship for that. It's not that we have to pay. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do it. So I ended up staying for a year because I said, 6 months is not going to be enough. By the time I'm going to be comfortable after adaptation process, I have to come back home. No. And everybody said, no, you can't. It's too expensive. You cannot do it. And I said, I'm going to work. Mm-hmm. I've been working. So why can I not work wherever I go? And I ended up doing a lot of working, different roles. I was working in a how we say, it was like a hall where we go, like a big cafeteria, let's say, of the big colleges in England, in Cambridge. So I was serving the food for other undergrads when I was an undergrad myself. Mm-hmm. And it was great. It was like Mary Poppins style. It was terrible, and then I have other friends that were international, and they say, well, we're getting extra money. That's okay. It's like working in the common, serving the food. Mm-hmm. And then in the mornings from 6 to 9, before going to school, I was making sandwiches in a sandwich store. That's where I learned all my vocabulary in English. I didn't have that. They didn't teach me all those ingredients. Mm-hmm. Well, I was my learning time when I was working. So that's how I ended up staying for a year, so I could pay my rent. And I was sharing also houses with other international students. That was the best. They're still my friends from France, from Germany, from Ireland, from Spain, from China, many friends. So study abroad opens the world, totally.
That sounds really fun and incredible. And I know that these experiences you had shape you as who you are today. Because if you didn't work in this do like sandwiches and work in the sandwich shop, you could have not learned such vocabulary, right? And yeah, that's truly amazing.
It was customer service
shape who you are today.
Mm-hmm. And I still remember those examples when I'm teaching, like in business settings. I was teaching also in hospitality in Spain. I remember those anecdotes, and how I solve it. And actually, they're not too far from what they do for case studies. And also for me, it was a good way to put my oral proficiency in practice because I was just reading. I was doing literature. So I have to be at home reading, and then writing papers. So where I was going to develop my speaking, it was just reading and writing. So, and then I have many international students whose English proficiency would be with whatever mistakes we had all over. And I didn't have too many of British locals friends. So that was when I was really getting it through my work.
Oh.
And also was a good way to, okay, you have to get up at that time. It was cold. And then you have 3 hours to do these sandwiches, and then you get this money, and with that money you pay your rent. That's responsibility. You don't work, you don't get money, you don't get paid for your rent. So
were you able to save some money for yourself?
Yeah, I was always considering that was the time. And so to go out, I would go out with my friends, and then I would still practice my English. But I didn't have too much of other expenses, like for example, I didn't drink alcohol at the time. So for me, it wasn't expensive, or perfumes or expensive clothes. So I prioritized. I thought, no, I want books. So I spent most of my money in books. They were very cheap though. And also in traveling, I wanted to visit different places. I went to other areas to visit, and remember, I couldn't ask for money to my parents. So I said, if I can help, I'd rather save and help them when I come back. I don't know, let's go for a trip. And I remember my mother came to visit me to England, so I paid for everything for her.
Wow.
So yeah, I could manage to do that. So yeah, you just put your money and your time whatever you think is gonna make you happier. And for me, that was the best. I'm not saying it would be not the same for other people and still not good. Whatever makes you happy, if it is perfumes and clothing, well, sure, be happy with that.
You gotta reward yourself sometime.
Yeah, and for me, it was traveling and buying my books. Now I have way too many books.
So I think this will be one last question that I have is, you said you like books, and so can you tell us about, any book you would recommend, and like what is one interesting book you might be reading?
Well, I really like classics, and I'm very, very biased because I had to teach literature, Spanish literature from Spain, for many years, and I always have my favorite book that I think it goes for any generation, which is La Celestina. In Spanish, it means the matchmaker. And I still teach about it nowadays. Even at UMBC, I taught La Celestina. People might say, "Wow, why you still teach?" It's like teaching Shakespeare. Like, well, we never pass in time. And it's about kind of a old lady, half witch, and very, very different life that you would expect it would be the norm back in Spain at the time in the 16th century. And it's between theater and novel, and it's about how to convince a girl to fall in love with a boy, and the boy's already in love with her, how to use kind of witchcraft, and some techniques just by talking, and so they fall in love. It's a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, but not necessarily the same because she's the main character, and I love how she's so witty and she comes with a plan, and it's also tragedy. But I love it. It really applies to anyone. So I remember I taught that when I was in Spain. My students were 12, 13 years old. And I have also undergrads in the US who are like older people. And I always love it. It doesn't matter who read that.
That sounds so fascinating. I really love like almost like romance book, kind of classic books. And you said it's called Matchmaker by...
It will be a translation. It's called La Celestina. I can also write in the chat. It's by Fernando de Rojas.
Ooh, okay. I think I would definitely give it a try.
There are some movies in Spanish with Penelope Cruz. I don't know if you know this actress. There are many versions of the movie because, as I say, it's a classic. But there are different ways to look at it. There are different characters and how, being greedy and being a traitor and your values and how you convince people. And there are many different themes that are related, and the role of death and the role of, deceit, how people can turn because it's more convenient to behave in certain way, so you get rewards. So you can really apply it to anything. And of course, love and desire, because at the time it's the ideal world and the ideal love, and then love for God. But this is the human relationship. It was one of the first times that really they talk about, desire for human bodies. So it was like, oh, wow. Yeah. It is tough if you read in the original version in Spanish, because it's from the Castilian at the time, Middle Ages, but Renaissance, sorry. But if you find it in English in a more modern version, it's like reading Shakespeare in original version. Of course, it's going to be difficult, but you can find a different current language or the movies. But I would say read it first.
Okay. So you said there are many like versions and like languages too.
Like the language, well, the translation could be in many other languages, but the Spanish that was used at the time is like Old Spanish.
Oh.
So it's like Shakespeare, if you read in the original version of English, will be like, thou versus you, or you shall, thou shall. It was more, that was the Old English, but Shakespeare more in the Middle Ages. So there might be words that you're like, what do you mean by that? So you can find more of a current language in Spanish if you use the Spanish version, or you can do in English. And also the movies, you can find different movies about it. The most recent is the one I was telling you about, Penelope Cruz, in which she plays one of of course, the princess character, I would say. She's just a lady. I was going to say something more about it. Oh yeah, I love it so much. I fell in love with the book when I was 15, that for Halloween in Spain, I will use that character myself.
No, really?
My friends say, you look like La Celestina. It really is bad because it's like a half witch, half old lady, kind of dirty looking. So I put everything, all the details that I thought this is how I would look. Sometimes when you see that on theater, because it's a play as well, half a play, half a novel, between both, you can see that a man has played the role of this old lady, and I will have like hair coming out of the nose and big blister, and they're like, you look disgusting. Oh, good, that's what I wanted. So yeah, and really obsessed. And sometimes when people say, okay, what nickname will you choose? I would say La Celestina. I'm in love with that book. Yeah. So the author, Fernando de Rojas. I put it in the chat.
Okay. I'm just gonna take notes of everything you said.
I speak so much. I'm sorry for you.
No. I think that is what this podcast is all about, learning about you and your story and everything, your interests. And honestly, thank you so much for joining today. We're so honored to have you, really. And I know a lot of students will be, watching this, and they're gonna be, really inspired to. They're gonna be really inspired to follow your advice, and then kind of see your experience and learn from that also. And I know that you have gotten so much experience, and I think that's really incredible. It is incredible to hear your story, and I really enjoyed learning about everything, including the study abroad, because I will also be, studying abroad in the future, and so that's something I will take for myself. And then also your recommendations. And so yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today. We're very honored to hear your story.
Thank you very much. I would just say that it's not going to change. First generation students were very special, and the challenges became opportunities. And we shouldn't assume that other students who are not first generation don't have struggles. It's what you do out of that. And if you're first or second or third, yes, you're still in another position, but sometimes it's hard because they keep comparing you with the first person. And then that's also another challenge that you face that we don't usually face. But this is your context. Make the best out of it. And also talk to your mentors and professors, because you're not the only one. Believe me, when you share the stories and the challenges and the frustrations that you have, it's like, and then you end up laughing about that. It's what you do out of that. More than going to a doctor for pills, how to manage anxiety and depression. Yes, we have to acknowledge that and recognize that that's a very serious situation, but sometimes talking and putting yourself first, walking, drinking a lot of water, and doing things that you enjoy
Yes.
Breathing, learning to breathe and how to concentrate as much as you can. It sounds very naive and it sounds very positive. There are many challenges in life. I went through terrible things in life too. It's how you deal with that makes you and determine how strong you are. You end up being stronger
Yes.
no matter what. And if at the same time you get something positive, if you get out of so much negativity, it's your path to your future. And when you go back, as I say, share and give back, because somebody else is going to be there after you. So what are you going to tell them? It could be your kids, your siblings, if you become a teacher, of course, your mentees, anyone, a friend. So I think it's important that we communicate more.
Yes, communicating more with your family also. That's something I've been, kind of struggling with. It's like telling my struggles to my family. And sometimes I feel like students can feel like a burden too. And so I think that's why they don't really like tell their families. But you saying that we should tell our families, I think that's really important, because I think we should just, like you said, time is really short, right? And we should all carry our struggles and just help each other out and support each other through everything.
And they might give you an answer that you thought, oh, they don't understand me and they cannot help me and I don't want to become that burden. But sometimes just telling them, because I'm your daughter or your son, okay, that's it. That's all they need. They learn to be the parents of a first generation student as well. They don't know that until they are there. So give them the opportunity to have their role in the best way. And you can give them, 50% of the actual problem, but the other 50, you don't want to worry them that much. Well, think about it. How, if you were the parent, what would you do? If your kid is struggling, what would you do? Before you go into other, I would say some students cannot cope with that. So you don't want to have parents who do not know about it. That wouldn't be fair. They're not there just to support you with money and pay your fees, but as much as you can. And if the household is the actual problem, but it could happen as well, finding other ways, other people to help you first. If you're good, everything is going to be okay. And you mentioned something that you share is going to be the same no matter what, in any generations, being the first one. When you open the door, the first one, if you're a woman entrepreneur, and if you are in this religion and in this particular context, you're going to be all the time facing those challenges. What are we going to do? So I think we're very lucky that at UMBC, being so diverse, we share all those challenges, and it's a very beautiful context to really be creative to how we can do better, and also find the resources available for student services. Don't keep it to yourself. I didn't have that opportunity, and I maybe had it. Maybe I would have done things maybe easier for my health as well. So find the resources, and if you don't find them, keep asking. And if you don't ask, you can complain later, right?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, it's good what you're doing.